Die, 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 die. That guitar sound, that New Yorkie wonderful guitar sound. Let's see the zoom up there. Let's get the waiting room. Oh, where are the participants here? Oh, I can't handle technology. Where is it? Ladies and gentlemen, on this Shabbos, July 25th, 2020, with me, Rabbi Sal Solomon, please join us in welcoming a veteran and marvelous singer-songwriter from beautiful New York. Let me tell you about this guy. His first album came out back in 1980, and someone was so impressed with him that he had him open for them on tour, and that someone was Pete Townsend of The Who. Uncut Magazine has called this man a one-man clash. I've been called a one-man crash, but that's something else. New Yorker magazine has called him one of the most brilliant singer-songwriters of the past 30 years. We'll make it 40 now. I don't know how old that quote is. He has performed with Elvis Costello, Ringo Starr. He's got a recent album out called Streets of New York, which was then followed up with New York at Night, the more recent one. And he's been in show business so many years that it reached the level where there's a 2 CD set out of his music, and it's not even him. It's all these other people covering his songs. People like Dan Byrne and Nils Lofgren and John Gorka, Jen Chapin, Graham Barker. So ladies and gentlemen, won't you please welcome inveterate New Yorker and veteran musician, Willie Nile. Shalom, Willie.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for being with us. First of all, the question that we have to ask everybody nowadays is, how the hell are you? Are you okay, healthy?
Yes, thank you. I'm all right. I'm in New York. I've been here since the beginning of this, and I'm surviving. I'm doing all right.
I didn't like that cough. That cough scares me.
That's just a little bit of Ebola. It'll be gone by the afternoon.
Yeah, my Ebola comes and goes like that. By the way, do you know someone named Lewis who says hi? Someone who's known you for, can you give me a first initial? Oh, Louis Medanek. I know Louis Medanek. Do you know a fellow named Louis Medanek?
Yeah, I do, of course. How is he?
Oh, I guess he's fine. He's asking, how are you? I went to school, or my friend Dave went to school with the guy.
Oh, it's been a while. Yeah. My best regards to Louis. Yeah, I miss him.
Oh, well, God, I'm sure he misses you too. Yay, well, welcome to all the listeners who have tuned in to see and talk to Willie Nile here in the Daverhood. So let me ask you, of course you are a New Yorker, and you have not one but 2 albums. What does New York give to you as a songwriter, as a performer? How does it inspire you in a way that Oshkosh wouldn't?
Well, I grew up outside of Buffalo, New York, and moved here about 48 years ago. I've been living here on and off. And I went to the University of Buffalo, got an degree there. But what I've learned from New York City, it's really taught me so much about, it's such a cosmopolitan city. You stand on the corner of McDougal and Bleecker in the Village, and if you stand there for 10 minutes, you'll hear like a half a dozen languages. I love the diversity. I love the grit. I love the history of it. I love there's an edge to New York. It just makes me feel alive, and I love it here. I adore the city.
Well, speaking of the city, you put your first album out in 1980, and before that, you were a habitué, if you will, of CBGB's and that club life. You were really into all the folks that you were seeing there. So give me some memories of, I don't know, Hilly Kristal and the Blondie and whoever, all the people who were running CBGB's, and what it was like to see things there.
First time when I moved here, I would get my acoustic guitar and go to open mics, wherever clubs had open mics where you could just get up and sing and learn your craft. And I looked in the Village Voice one day and saw this advertisement, a new place, because I had been looking every week, called CBGB's and Omfug. So I took my guitar, walked down Bleecker to the end of the Bowery, walked in this club. It was the afternoon. I think it was a Tuesday afternoon. Woman behind the bar, 1 or 2 people at the bar, nothing else. And I said, hey, how do you get to play here? And she said, oh, you should talk to Hilly. He's in the back, but he'll be out in a little bit. So I got a beer and I sat down, and about 15 minutes goes by and nobody comes out. So I walked over to the jukebox and I looked, so they had the best jukebox in town. But I noticed that the last 2 songs, the last single was by a guy named Hilly Crystal. And I thought, how many Hillies are there? So I put about $5 a quarters in the machine and pressed the same song over and over again. And it sat back. And after about 10 times of playing the same song, out from the back comes this like a grizzly bear that just woke up and was angry. Comes out looking, what the hell? I walk up to him and I say, hi, are you Hilly? And he goes, yeah. I go, I like your song.
By the way, how was the song? Was it decent? Was it good? Was it punk?
It was decent. It wasn't punk. It was kind of like some country rock thing, but it was.
Oh.
And I said, I like your song. How do you get to play here? And he said, well, just jump up on the stage and play me something. So I played him a couple of songs, and I got a gig there. And that was just before television came in and began what began this club. But at the time, there was a jazz pianist playing, and I played one night there. And I used to go there all the time. And Patti Smith used to play, and television would open up for them. Those were amazing nights. At first, it wasn't very crowded, but soon enough, it was packed. You know, I saw Talking Heads, Ramones, Blondie, all these great bands, the Cramps. They were great, great nights. I'd go there with there was a friend of mine called the Criers, a band from Meridian, Mississippi. And the lead guitar player became my lead guitar player, one of my two guitar players. Great guys. We saw everything there. It was a fascinating place to hang out in the 70s, no doubt.
So still more story, like were the crowds, even when they grew and exploded, were they under control? Were they wild? Were they moshing, well, pre-moshing, whatever the hell they would do? Or was it just like, no, it was generally fine. Everybody's there just to groove to the music?
Yeah, that was generally the case. People were there. It was a really interesting collection. What I liked about CBGB's is that it attracted all these outsiders. People came from wherever, from Long Island, from the north, the south, the west, you know, to play music. Because the thing about CBGB's was, which I really admire and love Hilly for, you had to play original material or forget it. Because at the time, if you had a band and played in a club in New York, you had to play cover songs. And it was complete opposite of that. And so all these people, all these loners, outsiders, crazies would come. And it was a magnet for outsiders. And I love that vibe. It was so interesting. So you go there one night, Patti Smith would be outside hanging out, Jim Jarmusch, you know, who's a friend. And, you know, Patti lives down the street from me here. I saw her last week sitting at a restaurant outside. I love that vibe, you know. And when I saw the Cramps, I just laughed my head off. Lux Interior was so funny. I go, this guy's great. They were pretty great times.
Oh, let me ask, so you mentioned already at that point, you had enough songs to get on stage and sing and do your own original material. So when did you start writing your own songs? Like in college or when? As a kid, I had a very large family, and my older brothers played piano. My grandfather was a piano player. He ran orchestras over 20 years in vaudeville. And so when he died in 1953, what's his name? Famous, it'll come to me. He had a TV show nationwide. Eddie Cantor?
Yes.
Good one.
You in the car, and you in the silver Rolls Royce is yours. Eddie Cantor.
You're getting low.
When he died, my grandfather, on national TV, Eddie Cantor took 20 seconds out of his show to spend condolences to the family. So there was a lot of family at Bojangles would send him Christmas cards every year. So it was interesting to see the closeness of those musicians, where these guys would stop once a year in Buffalo. And anyway, there was a lot of music in my family growing up. So I started playing piano at the age of 8. And I loved rock and roll. I mean, like every kid growing up, I heard that music, you know, Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, forget it. As a little kid, my brothers brought home music. And so I played the piano, took classical piano lessons as a kid. So I had some history of music. And then in high school, I started writing poetry. You know, I had a great English teacher who really kind of opened up Shakespeare and the poets and, you know, Percy Shelley and stuff I dug, William Blake, Walt Whitman. And when I went to college, I went 1 year in Ohio to a place called Walsh College, Canton, Ohio. And my roommate had an acoustic guitar. And it was boring. It was really boring. So I said, teach me to play the guitar. And he was a lefty. No, he had a right. I was a lefty. I didn't know it, but when I went to pick up the guitar, it was left-handed. But he had a righty guitar, so I learned it playing the opposite way. I haven't been the same since. Anyway, I learned to play. Yeah.
So which do you play now? Do you play to your normal, or do you play off?
I play right-handed. My strumming hand is right-handed. But when I play pool, or if I were to shoot a bow and arrow, which I don't, it's left-handed. So I'm a little ambidextrous. You know.
Don't be shooting arrows during a pandemic. It will go many miles and hit somebody. But so, what do you remember the first song that you ever completed? Well, again, could have been high school, could have been, but even pre the poets. But first song that you finished.
A song called Chlorine.
Chlorine.
Yeah, it's a woman's name. It was a piano kind of boogie woogie kind of song. Chlorine. She's real keen, my chlorine. Like she I think it goes like she steps she's something steps on the old dance floor. She weighs 244. It's a funny song about dancing with this very large woman swinging me around the room, and she changes TV channels with a big right toe. There is no place she would not go. She's real keen. Bump bump my chlorine. Dun 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 dun. Dun. Yeah.
Have you played that in concert just as a goof over the past like 40 years? Have you gone back to it?
One time I was playing up in Piermont, New York at the Turning Point, and I thought, this is the first song I ever wrote, and I started playing a bit of it. Yeah, I still remember it.
By the way, we're talking with the delightful Willie Nile, who is delightful, even though I'm sorry to say this, he is a Catholic. How religious were you growing up, and what kind of religion do you have now?
Well, what's really interesting about the home I grew up in, my parents are devout, Catholics, Irish Catholics, and very good people. They give you the shirt off their back, never lock their door. And they were, so I had one of 8 kids. So we were going to church all the time. They were praying all the time. It was, we got a belly full of what it was to be devout and saw all that. And it was fast.
Did you just do it because they were doing it, or did you feel it at certain points yourself?
A little bit of both. It's definitely at points you felt it. Oh, maybe I'll be a saint.
Maybe
I'll be a saint when I grow up. Anyway, it was really interesting. But the thing that was the most fascinating to me was my parents they belonged to this organization called the Christian Family Movement, CFM. And they'd have meetings once a week at the house, and we'd all go run upstairs and hide out. And they'd have their friends come over and talk about the world. But being members of that, we were in Buffalo, New York, 25 minutes from Niagara Falls. So whenever any foreign visitors would come to Buffalo, New York to go to see Niagara Falls, if they came to the CFM office, and they did, we want to go to dinner at a normal American family's home. Every week we had, name any country on the planet, and they came to dinner at our house. We had foreign exchange students, sometimes over the year, sometimes 2 at a time, 8 kids. And my mother one day said to my dad, Bob, I think we should have a foreign exchange student. And he goes, okay, Joe. She had 8 kids already, and so we grew up with like the first one was a 16-year-old girl from Buenos Aires.
Well, I'm sure you like that. Okay.
She was so nice. I was just like a kid. I was 8 years old or something, or 10 years old, but she was so nice. Stayed for a year. When she left, we all cried for days. It was every time we had these foreign visitors come, they became brothers and sisters. So, that whether it was from South Korea or Japan, we had a priest one time from China who had been in prison for 20 years, taught us all how to use chopsticks. Name any country. And so we had different languages, different clothes, different customs. At one time, we had an Indian student from India who someone wrote my father looking for an American sponsor to sponsor this young 18-year-old English guy who wanted to come study here. And my father said, sure. He had to take on the financial responsibility. I mean, my father was there were these good people. So when you're asking me about religion in general, what I saw, and we had every religion. We had Buddhist monks come to the house. The head of the Vietnam educational system during the war came to our house for a visit. My mother couldn't talk to him or wait on him because she was female. I didn't dig that too much. But we had so as a kid growing up, you saw every kind of faith. Some people devout, some this, some that. From the pervert to the devout person, we had the wide spectrum.
Wait, who is the pervert? You
Well,
never had me over.
that-
No, was there an actual like I don't know? You know,
one time we had there was actually he was a governor of one
figures.
of in India, one of the provinces in India. I won't mention which one. And after dinner, he wanted to have a game and have my sisters dance.
Uh, yeah.
Next, I'm thinking that something ain't right about this. So I said, let's stop that game and let's play this one. So I put it into that right away. But that said, most of those people were really wonderful. One Christmas, we had so many religions and faiths, and my parents were very they believed in their faith. They treated people good. They were all God's children. I have a song called "All God's Children," and I'm a very positive guy who believes in the good side and the goodness of most people, and not everybody's good. We know that, but our job is to try to be good and to pick each other up. That's basically my philosophy of life. But one Christmas, I think I was 8 or 9 years old, and I woke up my sister. Let's go look. We coming down the stairs, looking at our Christmas presents under the tree. And we noticed on the couch, there's this like 6-foot swarthy, dark-skinned guy sleeping who wasn't there the night before. And what happened was a family into Crowley's in Chicago gave him my parents' address. Oh, you can go stay here. They never locked the door. So he got there like after midnight, walked in, fell asleep on the couch. We saw him. We didn't think anything of it. We just thought, all right, it's another visit. That was some message.
Oh, yeah.
And he stayed for like a week, and we all became great friends. It showed me and my brothers and sisters that
he may have come down the chimney, Schwarzer Claus or something like that. Who knows? But it's a lovely stay. It's a lovely. And that has carried over. I assume you don't have exchange students coming, but did you go to church? Are you? Because you're getting not the dogmatic part of religion, but of the being cool to other people and vice versa.
That's what I picked up: being cool to other people, being respectful. Being loving. Like if I'm in Buffalo, I may go to church with my dad, but by and large, I don't practice. I'm not a practicing Catholic. I'll go with him just to be. My father's 102 years old.
Mazel neglect. Oh, that's l'chaim to that. That's wonderful. And he should live to 120 something. As should you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let me ask you also about, since you had so many different people from so many different cultures that you were when you were in your teens and then a little younger than that, and how much did their styles? Did you play music with them? Did they bring guitars? Did they bring instruments? Did you get a whole multicultural sense of music from these people?
Yeah, we got a multi-central sense of everything, from food to obviously people had different faiths. That we had a couple from name any country, Tasmania, every country in the world we had people. It was like ridiculous. And there was sometimes you'd sit at the dinner table, you'd hear their stories. We had one guy from Hungary, didn't have a thumb because he was tortured and they cut it off in the 50s in whatever the revolution was going on. He was a radical student. But the music would kind of go along with it. Some people bring instruments. Some people would play the piano. But it was more the stories they told, that there were real people, coming here to learn as students or just traveling through the country for different reasons. It was fascinating. It was just a fascinating thing growing up.
By the way, can I ask you a question? You're Willie Nile, but you're actually not Willie Nile. Your name is Bob Noonan.
Robert Noonan.
What happened? Why did you? I mean, Bob Noonan is a perfectly good name for a singer-songwriter. Why Willie Nile?
When I first moved to the village and started playing in clubs, I was Bob Noonan. I would sign my name. You'd sign a list and you'd get in line and you'd play. It's Bob Noonan, and it was pretty. I thought that the vibe was. It was 1972, and there was a lot of pretentious. At the time, it was like delicate acoustic guitar music. I'm James Taylor's kind of thing, and I'm a rocker. I mean, I like all kinds of music, and I love that. That's great. That's all kinds of great music. James Taylor's great. But there was a lot of snobs. And I went to the Bitter End one time, which is right down the block from me here. And the comedian who was the MC, he would put his friends on ahead of you. You'd sign up and he would just put his friends on. He was very disrespectful. He thought he was hot stuff. And the next week, he put some people in front of me. I didn't get on until 2 a.m. I thought, all right, I get it, you know. And he had disrespectful generally. He didn't care about music. He just wanted his comedy career. So I get in line, and the guy says to me, "Oh, so what's your name?" You know, and I go, "It's Bob Noonan." And he goes, "What? I didn't hear you." And I go, "Oh, it doesn't matter. You can make your own. You can make it up." And he goes, he points his fingers. "Oh no, no." He sees he gave me a 30-second lecture. It's really important what your name is. You know, it was like a Las Vegas shtick he was giving me. I go, "Oh, really? Oh, okay. My name is Huey Rosenbag." And I just made it up. He goes, "Rosenberg?" I go, "No, no, Rosenbag, like the pitcher's mound." So he writes down Huey Rosenbag. So for the next 3 hours, my wife and I sat in the back just waiting for this guy to introduce me as Huey Rosenbag. He did. I played my 3 songs. Went back the next week and I was Mo Downs. And next week I was Umberto Snorts. I changed my name every week because I realized that I refused to play the game. I thought, what is this, high school? I thought, you know, it's about the songs, and the fame thing never appealed to me. Being an idol was the last thing I want. I want to make a living making music. You know, I love songs, I love songwriting, I love music. And I started to have fun with it. So I gave all these names. I think Osgood Pequod's one of my favorites, but there was, I had about a dozen, and Willie Nile was one of those names. I was watching a TV, there was a great BBC 12-part series called Search for the Nile. It was fascinating, 1850s, 1860s. The National Geographic Society of the UK, England, was looking for the source of the Nile River. And Richard Burton, this famous explorer, and John Henning Speke, snobby Brit, they were looking, everybody's racing to be the one. And I just woke up one night, and I thought, Willie Nile, because it sounds like to say something's nihilistic. I'm a philosophy major. That made me laugh. This willy-nilly. I just thought it kind of made fun of itself in its own way. So if anyone were to write about me and either praise me or slam me, they're doing it to a name that I made up for fun. You know, like Huey Rosenbag. Who thinks of that? It came to me like on the spot. No, not Rosenberg, Rosenbag, like the pitcher's mound.
That is so. By the way, did anything come of that? Do we know who he is? Is he, or did he go nowhere?
No, he did. He was part of there was a 3 or 4 person group. He was one of them. I never saw anything about him, but one of the guys in the group did succeed and became very famous. He was in a lot of the Chris Guest movies. Waiting for Guffman. He died.
Willard, was it, or?
But Fred Willard was in the troupe, but he wasn't the MC. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, but he was one of those guys. He was the guy who was in the Guest movies. Wow. Let me also ask, in terms of, because you went right there. First of all, you are a rocker, of course, although one of your best albums, I think, is one that's basically acoustic piano with a little bit of instrument. Was that the River one, or what's it called?
Was a river, yeah. Thank you.
If people are a little skittish, because my audience, they're 80, 90 years old, you know, if it's anything later than Eddie Cantor or Al Jolson, they're like, it hurts. But they might want to go for that particular album. It's anthemic and lovely. But you've got all this other music that has been happening, and you'd say you don't go for the big star thing. You don't want to play the game of the record companies back in the day.
It's not about fame and personal glory. It's the music that I love, and that's what the passion is. And you know, listen, I'd love to be stinking rich. Make no mistake about it. I'd be a great rich guy. Are you kidding me? Oh,
I hit you up for loans. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You got it. Just name your anything. The being famous thing was never kind of what drew me to music. It was like hearing Little Richard play "Good Golly Miss Molly." That was fun. You know, hearing Chuck Berry play Johnny B. Good, hear the Ramones. It's the music that matters.
The problem is when you have that attitude and you put out an album, Willie Nile, I named after you, of course, and then 10 years goes by, and were you fighting with the record company? Was Clive Davis a problem? And what the hell happened? Because you're on this trajectory that so many people like you are lucky. Oh, you get a major label debut, and then vanish. What?
1980, I put my first record out, and it got a lot of hype and a lot of press. I was like, quote unquote, the next big thing, and it was a lot of it made me laugh. I never took it seriously, but I appreciated that the record company tried for me. Clive was great. I had free reign to make the record I wanted to make. They did not interfere with me, and they tried for me. And I made 2 records for them. But I had problems with the business end of it, a former manager, a lawyer, and I was doing concerts at night and going to like arbitration in the morning. And I thought, you know what? And there was people like there was like in Billboard magazine, there was a 2-page spread, Willie Nile and all these great quotes from the New York Times and whatever, these magazines and stuff, which was great. And I appreciated that. But then because I had no manager, I was besieged by, people, and I had no one to counsel me. I was just, and I thought, you know what? And it stuck in my craw. I didn't want the music end of things to kill my buzz for music. I said to my wife, let's get out of here. Let's walk away. So I turned around, and after my second record, I just walked. It wasn't the smartest thing in the world. I just walked away. I got out of it.
And did what? So you didn't just walk away and do small concerts. Did you walk away from music completely except as a hobby, or what did you do?
No, I didn't walk away from writing in music, but I didn't play any concerts for the rest of the decade. I mean, until 1987. I lived off the money I had, borrowed money, got a job in the post office, I was the worst postman ever. I didn't last long. You
have to remember to ring twice. That's the thing they always forget.
Ring twice, yeah. I always rang twice. I was out in the country. I'm driving my little post office vehicle, and I was a terrible postman, and I was late. I was late. I'm a little guy. I'm carrying these bags. And people would come out wanting their welfare checks, and they'd meet you on the road, and they'd say, "Don't give anybody any mail unless it's at their house." And I'd say, "Look, I can't give it to you." And it was fascinating, actually, experience. I mean, the human race is an interesting bird, to say the least. And I was terrible at it, and so I quit. It didn't last long, and then I got a publishing deal with a major publisher for that got me through a number of years.
For your memoir, or to write what kind of
a songwriter writing songs, trying to write songs that they would get other people to record.
Oh, nice. That happens a lot for people who write for the country field. Is that what you were writing for, or yeah?
All of the above, whatever, they would put me with other writers that would try to co-write. It was fascinating, but I write mostly on my own. I'm best at that, I think, when I just write a buddy of mine, Frankie Lee, I write with, over the years, I've written with a lot, but generally things.
And Judas Priest as well. Not the bad, just little Frankie Lee joke.
Yeah, Frankie Lee and Judas Priest, yeah.
By the way, and that is a relevant joke, because you actually did an entire cover album of Bob Dylan songs, which I always have. Sorry, please. Yes.
That was so much fun to do. I did when it was Dylan's 75th birthday, and the City Winery here in New York City was having a night, of Dylan songs, and they asked me to come over and would I play 3 or 4 songs to close the show, and I said, yeah, I'd love to, but let me first look and see because I would only do something like that if I felt I could bring something to the table. So I spent one night going over all the songs, and I thought, well, hard rains are going to fall. If I did that like Bolero, which I thought that could be great, which I did. And Rainy Day Women, I picked 4 songs. It was so much fun playing that night because everybody knows the songs. That's great. It's a masterpiece he's a Shakespeare rock and roll. And it was so much fun. I thought, well, that's 4. If I had 6 more, I'd have an album. And I said, I'm going to do this for fun. And a couple of friends said, you can't do Bob Dylan. You can't do the Beatles. You can't do Bob Dylan. I mean, not meaning me, but anybody. And I go, well, I think I could have some fun with this. I've got a great band. So I went in the studio in 2 days, and all the vocals are live. And while we cut them, those were the original takes were the final vocals. It was a great, fun, good experience. I love making that record. Bob.
But this branches me into 2 different questions. First of all, do you have any, because you know and have played with a lot of musicians, do you have any Dylan stories or experiences or encounters personally?
Bob used to live down the street from me. Just a few doors down. In the 70s, I'd be sitting on my fire escape, having a cigarette, watching the world go by. And and I'd see this blue van pull up on weekends, and I knew because he was like literally 10 numbers away from me, about 4 buildings away. And I'd see Bob get out with his kids. So I didn't meet him then, but his publishing company, when I made my first record, his publishing company administered my publishing. Really good people, really, really, to this day, they're good people. And I met Bob through them. And one story, the last time I saw Bob, was at a Bruce Springsteen concert at Shea Stadium, 2003. It was October 4th. I remember I went to see Springsteen in September of that year outside of Buffalo. And I went back to say hello. Bruce is a really great guy and a buddy. And I took my kids to the show, and I went to say hi, and he goes, "Hey, you want to come and sing? You want to come and sing Glory Days with me?" And I thought he was kidding. And I go, "Wait." I go, "Yeah, sure." So next thing I know, my kids are in the audience, and I'm up on stage on the jumbo screen singing Glory Days with Bruce. It was an absolute riot. He was so sweet of him. It was really fun. Loudest band I was ever on stage with. Oh my God. My guitar's never been that loud. When I first hit it, I almost flew off the stage. It was great. And so 2 weeks later, I went to see him at Shea Stadium to thank him. I went backstage. I see him in his dressing room. "Hey, Bruce." And he says, "Hey, want to come and sing 2:45 with Gary Bonds?" So next thing I know, I'm on for half an hour with Gary U.S. Bonds. And Bruce comes up. He goes, "Hey, come on up." Beforehand, he goes, "Come on up for what's it called? So many songs. I can't think of it." So anyway, I'm on stage with Bruce, and he comes off the stage at the end of the night, and he goes, "That was great. Come on back tomorrow night. We'll do it again." Bruce loves to rock. He does. This was at the end of this 2-year tour, and the band was tired and stuff, but he was like ready to go. He can't help it. He's like a volcano. So, and it's fun to be on stage with him. I was pushing him, going, "You rock, brother," And the next night I went, and Dylan was backstage, and I know one of the people from his office was there, and I said, "Hey, can I say hello?" And sure, I shook his hand, said hi, and I'm sitting on a road case at the backstage, at the foot of the stage. And I said hello to Bob, and he's standing next to me, and Bruce comes off the stage before the encores, and he comes, right up to Bob. And so I'm sitting on a road case. I couldn't get out of the way. Bob's on my right and Bruce is on my left, and their heads are literally right in front of my face. "Hey, thanks for coming. Hey, nice to see you. How are you? Hey, great. And what do you want to play? Let's play Highway 61. And it was, I would have gotten out of the way just out of respect, but their faces were right in front of mine, and the Shea Stadium was going crazy. It's interesting to be back at a stage at a Bruce show with the audience going absolutely crazy. And Bob got up and played, and was so great. Walked off the stage, cool as can be, down the ramp into a limousine, off into the night he goes. The coolest, really pretty hip cat. It was pretty great. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. God bless Bob Dylan. We're all better because of his great work and catalog and so on.
Oh, absolutely, unbelievable. Even Wiggle Wiggle is a wonderful song, and people don't like it, but Wiggle Wiggle is good. Let me ask you, not to impinge upon your friendship, because we're going to tell stories out of school, but as you say, Bruce is a buddy. So do you have any cute Bruce Springsteen anecdotes, funny stories about him that you wouldn't mind your telling, because it's outside the confines of just professional relationship?
Well, I've always found him to be so genuine. I met him in, I forget when it was, what year was it? 91. I had a record out on Columbia Records, and ran into Patti Scalfa. I was in Los Angeles doing interviews, and she was very, very nice. I knew Patti from when she sang with Southside Johnny back in 1980, and always really nice woman. Always so nice to me and the other musicians. And long story short, I met Bruce, and he was such a good cat. When I met him, he had just played The Bottom Line. I forget, he had the album, when those two albums came out together, I think it was then when he had those two records released simultaneously with not the E Street Band, another band. And I went and shook hands. He goes, "Hey, get our number from the house, from Patti. Call it. Patti's got the number. Get the number. Call the house. Come on over." And I was too shy or embarrassed to ask Patty for the numbers, so I never followed up on it. How do you spell idiot? Capital IDIOT. Anyway, I tell people that he's everything you hope he would be. To be that well known and iconic and famous, it's not the easiest seat to sit in the world. Not
I wish I knew, but yeah.
the easiest shoes to fill. And I find him, he's genuine as can be. Like if you were hanging out with him in a bar at night, which I've done, he came to see me play Long Branch one time, and in the wee hours we're sitting at the bar drinking. He's just a regular guy deep down, and he's passionate. It's genuine. He doesn't have to tour. He could just sit back and relax. It's in his DNA, rock and roll, and
like yours. At this point, even though you're not wealthy, but you make a decent career. I hope I'm doing what you do.
Absolutely, I'm lucky as can be. I get to tour around the world. I've got a great band. I'm making my living. I'm fine. I never thought I would get to this point. I'm not rich by a long shot, but I'm surviving well enough. And Bruce just really, I said to him, I was at dinner at his house one time. We're leaving. He was driving me back to my hotel, and I said, Bruce, look what rock and roll. Look what you've done. And he said, you know what? Not a day goes by that I'm not grateful. And he meant it. He was not a day goes by that I'm not grateful. There's something to be said for following your dreams. And everybody can tell he's a kid who followed his dreams and loves what he does. And he gives back. The charity that comes from him, people don't know about because he doesn't, blow a horn about it. He does a lot of good work and good things for a lot of people. He's a great guy.
I donated a sofa to Goodwill. Nobody mentions this. It had only a few stains on it. I felt very giving, very generous. I only took a $1,400 markup on it for taxes. I'm very proud of that. I think it should be trumpeted more.
I'm sitting on that sofa as we speak.
There you go. That's how you survive. Oh, we have a message from, I think, a listener. By the way, we have people who are typing in and in the Zoom and the Facebook thing, and they're saying that you look great, and they're very, very happy to see you. So we wanted to let you know that. But,
knock on wood. I feel good. I've been trying to be as vigilant as I can, taking good care of myself, and my dad's 102 and he's still doing great. The family's good, and I
want to ask you a creatively worky kind of a question here, because you had mentioned when you were putting the Bob Dylan tribute album together. Anyway, you did the concert, you did 4 songs. And so, if I have 6 more songs, I have an album here. Do you still think in the 2020 age, where it's all Spotify, where it's all this kind of music, and how is it musicians still think in terms of albums running a certain amount of time with a certain amount of numbers? Is that going to go away, like with the next generation? Are they not even going to think in terms of a 45-minute to 75-minute window?
I think it's probably yes and no. I think the people think it's singles these days, like you say, with online things. Here's a song. I grew up with albums, initially in the 50s, it was singles. But then the whole culture, the counterculture in the 60s, which I grew up with, was all albums. It's like reading a book, like an album, say Blonde on Blonde, or say, Darkness on the Edge of Town, whatever, 12 by 5 by the Stones. I like collections,
Yes.
Sometimes the sum of the parts can be greater than the whole. I don't know what that cliche is, but I like collected works, and if it's too many songs, like I haven't made double albums because it seems like it's too much of a listen. Like when I made this new album, New York at Night, there was one other song we cut, finished, mastered. I didn't put on there because I thought when you listen top to bottom, it feels like a full meal. An extra song was just a little bit too much, So that's a taste thing. I think in terms of it's song by song, but ultimately I get a general feeling when a collection's coming together. I have it now, actually. I've been writing during this pandemic, and I've written a bunch of songs, and I thought this is the core of an album. So I think in terms of albums, the future generations, who knows, I like collected works, like whether it's a book of short stories or a novel or that book of poems. I like an album of songs, 11, 12 songs.
It's what we, as I'm saying, is what we grew up with.
So I'm used to that. Yeah.
I'm sure people who grew up playing 78s, where after 4 songs, well, I like putting this over and over, and then I go away for a half hour of silence, and then I'm gonna crank up the Victrola and do something. Oi, I just spilled. Oh dear. Oi, I just spilled my egg cream. How terrible is that?
Taking that as a good sign.
It's all over. Pardon me a moment. By the way, we're talking with Willie Nile, and our assistant, our lovely assistant, is helping here. Look, it's got all Schwitz on it of chocolate, seltzer, and milk. So, I'm sorry. Anywho.
The mosh pit jumping up and down and just spilled your egg cream on your fellow man. That's all right.
And this is rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. This is the thing.
That's not to say that I wouldn't put out a single. I'll probably do that at some point. Put a song here or there, depending on the situation, But generally, I like albums. That's my particular.
Do you have a favorite song of yours, besides Chlorine? Do you have a song that you are most proud of over the years? And don't just say the usual thing. Well, the songs that I most recently did are my favorites.
Well, no, I've been doing this online. I've done 4 online shows on Facebook, with the tip jar out, because there's no live concerts anymore. So, and the fans have been really great. And what's been interesting about that is looking over my catalog, and as I put a collection of songs together for a show, I'll play a dozen songs, for example. And what surprised me was there's a lot of good songs in the collection, because once I make a record, I don't often go back and listen to them. I keep moving forward. A favorite song, a couple come to mind. On the Road to Calvary is one of my favorite songs that I wrote. I wrote that for Jeff Buckley. I originally was writing it as my journey, a journey through life. And then Jeff Buckley, my friend, died, and had died, and I wanted to write something to honor him. And so I dedicated it to him on the album. But over the years, the song has come to mean like the journey of the human race. Could be anyone's journey, if a friend passes, I'll sing that and dedicate to him.
I'm sorry to ask this, but since you mentioned it, I know you have all those brothers and sisters. I know you lost at least one brother of you.
Yeah, God bless him. Yeah.
Did that inspire, as it were, a song? Did you write about that, or was that too personal to?
There's a song on the new album called "Surrender the Moon" that I wrote with John. He lived in the apartment right next to mine, and he knocked on my door one day. He died 12 years ago, heart attack. Great guy, brilliant guy. I always describe him as, of 8 kids, he was the brightest color in our rainbow. He was a real brilliant guy, and he scored a movie. He wrote his own music. Great guy. Anyway, he knocked on my door one day and said he had a song idea, and he came over, he played on the guitar, and it was "Surrender the Moon." And we wrote it, and I always wanted to record it. And so I put it on this album. But a week before they started rehearsing for it, I rewrote the last half of the song. But it's a song I wrote with John. Have I written something about John? It makes, not per se, things like that make their way into songs. Like the other night, I played "Back Home," another one of my favorite songs that I've written, "Back Home," which is semi-autobiographical. I dedicated to my brother Richard, who's in Oregon now. He's very ill. And my eldest brother, I not per se haven't written a song for John, but I put "Surrender the Moon" that I wrote with John on the album, and I love the way it came out. He'd have loved it. Hey, John, talking about you down here, buddy. Yeah.
Well, we are talking with the marvelous Willie Nile. I do want to remind everybody, if I can read my soaked notes here, but I want to tell everybody that you can get Streets of New York in old.
New York Night's a new one.
New York at Night. Excuse me, I read that wrong. 2008 was Streets of New York, and now it's New York at Night is the new album by Willie Nile. Yep. But also Paradiddle Records is releasing Willie Nile Uncovered, a 2 CD set of songs of yours. Now, you can't say which of those is your favorite because you have to love them all.
What's fascinating about that, I got a phone call last year from a fella in the guys from Paradiddle Records called. Great guys, and they said they wanted to do a tribute album. And I was a little embarrassed. I thought, well, why me? I thought, and when I heard the album, I was really, I had tears in my eyes during some of the songs. The album's called Uncovered, Willie Nile Uncovered, and they encouraged all the artists to do different takes on the songs. And there's just some really interesting takes, some of the songs, and, revisiting those songs that I worked hard over, hearing them was very, to say rewarding is, I hung in there all these years. One thing I'll say about me is I never gave up. I never stopped dreaming. I never gave up. I stuck to my guns. I never sold out. When I thought that the business early on was going to impact my writing and my music, I walked away. Not the smartest thing to do, really, with worldwide press that I had. I walked away and I didn't play again for years. It was 10 years later that I put another record out. So I kind of follow my heart, and hearing that record, I can hear it in there. All this, there's so many good songs. It'd be hard to pick one out. There's so many beautiful ones. Richard Barone's version of Streets of New York stands out. There's so many. Kenny White's version of Vagabond Moon, I started crying when I heard it.
And I think one of my favorites is Jen Chapin does a song of yours in a very acoustic sort of a way. That's just lovely.
Jen's version, those versions, I'd have to list all 26 of the songs. I couldn't believe it. They're all good. And I'm very, very humbled by it, to be honest with you. But it's like at the end of a long journey, you kind of look back and go, wow, that happened. So I'm honored by it, to say the least.
Well, we are humbled and honored to have been talking to the great Willie Nile. Please we have applause even for you. Last question before we because we asked you about your own songs, but you're such a people person. And you're so interested in other cultures and other folks, and sort of humbling yourself. Mm-hmm. What are one or two of your favorite old-time songs by other people?
Well, Johnny Be Good just stands up. Satisfaction. I would say my favorite song of all time is Satisfaction. And I play it often with my band. It's so much fun to play. I can't get no, because I can't get no. Johnny Be Good, Satisfaction. There's so many, She Loves You. The joy, when you hear She Loves You by the Beatles, the joy that comes through that recording. It's for me those songs. And Great Balls of Fire. I got to meet.
I had to go to the proctologist. Let me tell you. No, I'm kidding.
I got Doc Pomus, the great songwriter from a Brill Building, was a good friend of mine. And when I would play Kenny's Castaways in 1978, he came every night when I played. I go, Doc, 6 nights a week. How come you come to see me? I like what you're doing, kid. I like what you're doing. He was such a good man. He was the coolest guy I've ever met in my life. And I've met some cats. I love Doc. And he said, hey, Willie, I'm having a birthday party. I want you to come to my house. I went to his apartment, and I'm there with my wife, standing there, and he comes up to me in his wheelchair. And there was a small black guy with him. Hey, Willie, I want you to meet somebody. Willie, this is Otis Blackwell. And I almost fell off the floor. Otis Blackwell wrote, Don't Be Cruel, All Shook Up, Great Balls of Fire, Return to Sender, Fever, and a raft of others. One of probably the most unsung of the greats. And I couldn't hardly speak. I knew exactly who Otis Blackwell was. And then Otis proceeded, he had a guy playing a piano, and he proceeded to sing all those songs right 5 feet from me. I can't believe it. There's something to be said for believing in your dreams. Who would have thought I'd ever experienced that? Who'd have thought I'd ever be on stage with Bruce Springsteen at Giants Stadium? Who'd have thought I'd be backstage with Bob Dylan, watching Bruce, and Bob goes up and plays with them? You can't make this stuff up. So I'm still dreaming. I'm not going to stop dreaming. And I've been very lucky, and I'm very grateful for the good.
Who would have dreamed that you would be on this Dave's Gone By program with me, Rabbi Sal Solomon? This is the pinnacle. This is the crowning achievement, and for us as well. It remains for me. Oh, by the way, if people want to follow what you're doing both during this crazy pandemic and also like afterwards, do you have a concert tour set up for 2021 or?
There's shows. Actually, I've got a show. There's a live show August 15th in Monmouth Park, New Jersey, outdoors. There's a raceway, and next to it there's a restaurant, the Blue Grotto. Apparently, there's a big lawn behind it, and they're going to have like a supper club, socially distanced tables, and with all these rules so people can come out safely and see a concert. I'm going to play a live show August 15th with the band. I had Spain and Italy tours canceled. They're moved to 2021. And I'm doing, I've done 4 shows online. If people go to either willienile.com and sign up on the newsletter list, you'll know when, or if you go to Facebook and get on our, whatever that is, Facebook stuff, you'll get notes. I'm going to do some shows with my full band, live concerts online. And I'm not sure when we'll put them, sometime in August, we'll do it. And yeah, so you can go to willienile.com or go on, follow us on Facebook or whatever those social media sites are.
Willie Nile, W-I-L-L-I-E, spelled differently from the penis, I guess. Willie, N-I-L-E, willienile.com, and also his Facebook page. Willie Nile, stay healthy, stay creative, stay you, please. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Rabbi. I've enjoyed it very much, and you're a patient man, and I love that you spilled egg cream all over yourself during it. That just made it.
Oh, I may do it again just for you. I may do it twice. Let me tell you. Shalom to you.
To you, bye-bye.
Willie Nile in the Daverhood, ladies and gentlemen. What a joy! What a thing! I think I need you to leave and to end the meeting there.
Stay healthy.
You too. Shalom to you, and thanks so much. Willie Nile, oh, what a wonderful gentleman, what a fine singer-songwriter, and what a delight to have him in the Daverhood. I am Rabbi Sal Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Oh, see, everything has gone wrong for Dave and for me in this. I've spilled gook on me. The internet stops and starts. We start late, everything, and yet we get that, and wasn't that a